You don't know me, I'm David Choi. I teach entrepreneurship here. Usually this is done by our favorite professor, Dr. Giesner, but he's not feeling 100%. He actually was in the hospital last night, but he still made it here today. How about a big applause for Dr.
Still got to do your damn homework.
How's everybody doing? Okay, good. All right. So we've got a real treat today, real special guest. How many of you were at the last event with Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Lustig? All right. So many of you have seen those guys. Dr. Giesner likes to say that entrepreneurs come in all sizes and shapes and flavors and hairstyles. And today we've got somebody very special. I'm not saying those guys last time didn't have fun or are not enjoying themselves, but I don't know anybody who looks like is having as much fun as Wing Lam. Okay? Maybe it's faking, but I don't know. And you know it's America when a Chinese guy from Brazil can sell tacos and make a very, very good living. And how many of you are finance majors, by the way? Okay, so very boring major in finance. You may say, what am I going to do with a finance degree? You see a guy who looks like a finance major, right? Looks very uptight, analytical. So there's hope for you finance majors. By the way, so we're going to talk about it, but talk about having fun. So you got the idea for this business while you were surfing in Mexico?
Yep.
Okay, so you were working very hard in Mexico when you got the idea. And according to the various newspapers, how often do you surf per week these days?
These days, because the water, as you guys all know, the water hasn't been really clean. So during the winter, I cut back, but there's another sport called snowboarding, so I spend quite a bit of time doing that.
I remember when you came to my class one time, and one of the students asked, so when do you go to work? What time do you go to work? Do you remember what your answer was?
Well, it's usually after surfing or,
All right, before I let him speak, we've got a little present for him. Thanks, buddy. All right, Wing, you don't know what this is, but it says the Conrad Hilton Distinguished Entrepreneur Award, celebrating entrepreneurial excellence, exceptional achievement, and powerful leadership, presented to Wing Lam, founder, Wow's Fish Taco, and there's a picture of you in a surf outfit, I guess. Okay. A creative, dynamic, and powerful entrepreneur who created an exciting new niche market in the tough world of food and made it a tremendous hit with the youth market. LMU is proud to honor his outstanding entrepreneurial excellence, creativity, and innovation presented by the entrepreneurship program at LMU. Here you go.
I get to keep this one?
Yeah. You get to keep it after your talk. All right, so how about a big applause for Wing?
Where's my assistant here with it? Oh, there she is. It's easier for me to play a quick little history on our company because it avoids me filling you guys and boring you guys to death. And the one thing that I did find out about your illustrious professor here is, we're talking about you right here, that we were both on academic probation after our first year in school. So yes, there is hope. It did take me 5 years to graduate because I actually, he had a combined 0.05. And I said I beat him in one semester I beat him because I had a 0.01. Okay? Because I happened to join a fraternity that spring semester my freshman year. And I basically, the funniest thing is, myself and 3 of my buddies, we went surfing every day during finals, because even if we aced all 5 of our classes, we might have gotten a 1.0. So we figured out we might as well make fun. And so we tell everybody, goes, where do you go? Oh, we're surfing, because we already aced this class. And everybody goes, be looking at us, and goes, off to the beach we went. So once we got the letter, our parents weren't too happy with us, so I decided to, actually start showing up to classes. But anyway, here's a quick little video on our company.
Wahoo's Fish Tacos. Oh yeah, where summer never ends. Wahoo's. Oh yeah.
Every cultural influence in Wing Lam's life went into starting Wahoo's Fish Taco. The biggest influences were Southern California's surf culture and the fish tacos he and his brothers would get in Mexico. Following the example of his parents, Wing started his own restaurant and was joined by brothers Mingo and Ed after a year. The restaurant's fast yet healthy food sets it apart from the competition, and the beach casual atmosphere is complemented with just the right music and decor to complete the dining experience that Wing always envisioned.
This is truly a family business.
My brother Ed and Mingo were always in the background. Even though I started it by myself in the front of the house, the back of the house was always with those 2 help that were able to do it.
Another one of Wing Lam's successful marketing tactics is to align Wahoos with the top athletes in alternative sports, such as snowboarding, surfing, and skateboarding.
The cool factor about our restaurant comes with all the friends we have in the surf industry. They're the ones that give us surfboards or snowboards or skateboards. Well, we just happen to know the cool people in town, and we sort of get to ride their coattails a little bit. Wing can't tie his shoes. He can't barely get his hair combed out or anything. He's disorganized, but he's a great marketing man. The one thing that he does better than anyone alive.
Welcome to the Ellen DeGeneres Show.
So in honor of the movie, it was filmed in Hawaii. 51st Dates was in Hawaii. So we thought we'd make the cast feel at home. And in the experience back there, we have a luau that's going on. And look at that. There's food by Wahoo's Fish Tacos. You can't go wrong with that.
And the food is fish tacos.
When I tell somebody who's never eaten a fish taco that I own Wahoo's Fish Taco, their first thing is, yuck. Fish tacos can be called a surfer's hamburger. It's just something that you can eat right after you surf. We're actually in the back of our main corporate office. Dad was our original investor into the company. He goes, this is my retirement money you guys are playing with, so make it count.
Now that we're growing, what we ran into is a lot of red tape.
That's why I leave all the banking to my little brother Mingo. See, he's got the short hair.
That's where Merrill Lynch has stepped up. Dom found us the right people at Merrill to help us out.
They saw past the shorts and t-shirts. Where else in the world can a Chinese guy sell Mexican food? If this isn't the American dream, I don't know what is.
Gail Anderson in Newport Beach. How about a playhouse for your kids? Something tame like this, or how about an extreme playhouse? Details in a live report. Yes, we're in Newport. You want a kids' playhouse? How about this? This is Wahoo's Fish Taco House. Nice house. How about a little skate ramp in the back? Details on how you can make this your own when we come back. In case you're wondering, guys, Carlos and Martin, you think, oh, it reminds me of the Wahoo Fish Taco.
I love
place.
Wahoo. Stickers on the windows.
That's right. You can talk to Wing Lam, co-founder. Oops. I'm a little too big. Co-founder of Wahoo's Fish Taco. It looks like the restaurant. Yeah. Oh, Mark says he loves Wahoo best.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Just a little miniature Wahoo's as the kids can play. There's a little refrigerator, a little microwave. You pretend like it's your own little kitchen right here.
And yes.
Cook a full meal in there.
Oh yeah, there's a menu on the wall. The detail is ridiculous. And Pulte did all this for you to your respect.
Yeah, Pulte did everything with a little bit of help from the industry.
And I want to leave you, there's a shower in the back. What's the point of the shower?
Yes, the point of the shower, this is for when the kids are skateboarding or come back from moto or surf section, they can rinse off on the outdoor
They're all
shower here.
sweaty and whatnot. Let me try the shower. Hold this a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what I was going to say to you? Have we ever gone gone to somebody's house who actually bid on one of these and has one at their home? We're going to find out from Glenn in a little bit.
I'm going to check out the shower
You
here.
didn't have a shower this morning, did you? She's not
Oh,
with
you
you.
are! Look! Oh, it's very nice.
Is that real water? Yes, it is.
Yes, real water.
So as you guys can tell, I've managed to have a little bit of fun while I'm serving fish tacos. But let's go back in time, because what you guys see now, the celebrities and all the TV shows and all that, it's 19 years later. So let's go back to, basically when I was on probation. One of the things that I found that I did a lot of in college, I went down to Mexico quite a bit, because if you guys, okay, let's go back one more time. San Diego State is very cheap to go to school, because back in the day, I think it cost me like $100 per semester, something really cheap. Okay, whatever. Plus, I probably spent more on books than I spent on actually signing up for school. It was like maybe $200 for books and about $100 to actually sign up for for classes. So on a tight budget, one of the things that all of us did is you went to Mexico, and you could buy a case of Pacifico for $6. 24 bottles of beer. Not a bad deal, right? As long as you brought the bottles back, it would cost you $6 again. Okay, so that was the deal. So when you're going out, one of the things you learn about Mexico is maybe eating at places where there's a constant turnover of food. And the reason you have to have Pacifico is to kill any possible things that may be moving around. Okay, so remember, always drink alcohol when you're eating fish tacos in the taco stands. So, you don't want to go to a restaurant because you don't know how slow the food is turning over. So most of the people that actually get sick in Mexico, they get sick from eating at restaurants, not from the taco stands, because the stuff is moving pretty fast. So you get it, back then I think they were like 50 cents a taco. So after a day of surfing, maybe playing a little volleyball on the beach, maybe, riding up and down, on the 4x4s and all that, we have some tacos, have some beers, and the thing just went on and on because it was cheap for like about $10. 24 bottles of beer, about 10 tacos. Yeah, it's about $10 a day in Mexico. Well, fast forward, first of all, the big mistake, part of the reason I was on probation is I went to college on a degree that my parents thought I should be in. And I'm sure you guys already got past that because you're already almost graduating. So I was at San Diego State as an aerospace engineer. I mean, good with numbers, but not that good. And they have what they call it, the classes, the size where they try to weed half of the guys out, right? So there's the curve, no matter how smart you were, they had to get rid of half of you. So half of the kids had to fail, and I happened to be on that half. So it wasn't very smart. So that's when I figured out that finance was actually kind of like interesting. You still got to work with numbers, you got to be creative, and like accounting, which I've never really figured out. I took only one accounting class. I was never able to balance that sheet no matter which way I did it. I don't know how you transfer the number from one side to the other. So I didn't have to worry about that because creative financing was if you can justify your position and juggle the numbers around, you can get to the right answer no matter if you can justify it. So I managed to graduate in 4 years, went to do the aerospace thing anyway because I wanted to see what it was like to be in corporate America. So back in the 80s, Star Wars, space station, all these things was going on, and I went to work for a company called Rockwell International. Okay, there's one of the divisions was in Downey, this space shuttle division, and I commuted from Newport Beach, 40 minutes every day to Downey, and it was kind of fun, you put on a suit every day, have fun, and you got to go have lunches, and this is in the days when you talk about waste and abuse. The lunches lasted for almost 3 hours. And 5 martinis later, I'm like, I can't even drive to my office again. I got to go home. And this was like once a week. I'm like, I can't do this thing for another 30 years. But everybody, you know, the buyers and sellers, engineers, everybody was kind of liking the program. And it was part of the culture, as you call it, right? And I'm like, you know what? You know, DUI wasn't still, you know, like what it is now. It was still kind of, you know, drink, it's okay, you know. But now, you know, it's beginning to change. So I'm like, I'm going to get caught. I'm going to probably get in a wreck or something. And the commute started getting longer because the freeways get busier. They never get slower. And I'm like, you know, these guys have been here for 30 years. There's got to be something else. And I noticed that the kids, they never graduated from high school. They were back in Orange County. They were running these surf companies. And if you guys know, some of you guys surf, on the hang tag for Billabong, it says, only a surfer knows the feeling. Now, if you know what that means, it means that you have to test the stitching on your trunks in the crotch area in very tropical warm waters for 6 hours to make sure it doesn't give you a rash, right? And then where do you do that? In places like Fiji, Tavarua, Costa Rica. So I'm like, let me get this straight. You get paid 6-figure. They send you out to these exotic places for 4 to 6 weeks at a time to make sure that the trunks don't give you a rash. And they're like, well, you got to test it. I'm like, okay. You know, and I'm like, and you didn't go to college, and you go to work every day in shorts and T-shirts, and I got to put this thing that has starch on it. And this is not right, you know? So I started looking around, and my brothers were getting ready to get out of school. And I told them, you know, this commute thing is not really fun. These guys are taking off every day at lunch time, if the waves are right, because in Costa Mesa, it's like 5 minutes down the hill to Newport. So everybody goes surfing at lunch. I'm like, there's something wrong with this formula here. You know, so we started talking, and my parents were getting ready to retire. And in marketing, the one class that I took again, because again, the Marketing 370 at San Diego State, that's another class they got rid of half of the guys in the business school. So another class that I barely got a C in. But the one thing that I remember in the product life cycle was you got to be in this phase. And I'm like, okay, restaurants right here. So that's not a good idea because how are you going to be in this growth phase, not in a mature phase? The second thing was find something that you can basically have a monopoly in. Because if you can get rid of all your competition, price is never an issue. There's really nothing, there's no issues because you control the whole market. So I thought about it, goes, okay, there's a ton of these surf companies, skate companies, and all these. So what am I going to do? And I thought, wait, there is not a surf-themed restaurant. So I grew up in the restaurant business. I've washed dishes, been a busboy, a waiter. I mean, I've done everything in the business. And I thought, okay, maybe I can pull the surfing thing, and I think we can maybe, you know, ride the coattails of the surf industry because it was beginning to take off. So I got together with my brothers. They're getting out of school, and I'm like, you guys, you know, there's not enough money to pay for all of us to be on the payroll, so I'll kind of manage the front of the house while you guys kind of do the paperwork and whatever. And then once we hopefully get enough business, everybody be on the payroll. And that's how the business got started. So when you look at the first 18 months of business, one of the things that they'll tell you, oh, you know, it's really fun to own your own business. Let me tell you, payroll doesn't happen on Friday unless you can make it. And you're the last one to get paid. And you are free labor until you can get paid. So imagine that for a second. You know, I had just gotten married, had a little 1-year-old son, and it wasn't exactly the brightest thing to do, but I figured, you know what, I can't commute another day and do anything else in the aerospace world because I'm kind of over that, and I want to go back and go to work in shorts and T-shirts and maybe let my hair grow again and just have fun. So we started, and I spent probably 18 hours a day, took 2 days off the first 1.5 years in business, Christmas and Easter. Now imagine that. And I used to weigh about 60 pounds less than what I do now. I mean, and I still feel, I know. So my boards have also gotten longer along the way because I need to float a little bit more. So anyway, we get through, and now things are going. We open our second store, and along the way, we started doing events with the surf industry, which is exactly how I imagined. Now, this is how most people, what they see now, Tony Hawk, Kelly Slater, all this. Trust me, back in the day, these are basically nobodies because the surf industry wasn't that big. The skate industry was in the downturn because of all the laws with the liability. They closed all the skate parks in California. So there was nothing going on other than slowly. You know, the contest, the only thing was the OP Pro. And what they needed was a sucker. Imagine if all you guys come down, there's a contest this week and waves are, you know, perfect 4 to 6 feet, you know, Huntington Beach is firing away. And I would show up and be cooking on the beach while everybody's surfing. So that's how I spend my weekends. And then when there'd be snowstorms, I drive up to Big Bear. Guys be, you know, in the half pipe, slope style, whatever, you know, cruising. And there'd be a guy under the tent, snowing, cooking tacos, right? Go to the skate park. Guys be skating in the bowl, in the half pipe again. There'd be a guy cooking tacos. So as the industry grew, I kind of grew with it. So we started moving and opening stores. And overnight, we became the unofficial, official surf and sport restaurant. And off of those 3 main sports, you got supercross, you got mountain biking, you got wakeboarding, all the alternative sport. As they grew, we kind of grew with them. Because again, we were the only guys crazy enough to wheel the kitchen to the side of where it was happening. So prior to us coming into the business, all you had was, if you went to a surf contest, you had soggy peanut butter sandwiches that people, you know, packed it the night before and left it in the refrigerator. So after you get done with a full day of surfing, that's what you got to eat. Well, here we come, we have a hot meal, and you just had the best wave of your life, and here's Wahoo's. So in a really crazy way, it was like that experience. So every time you thought about surfing, you're like, oh, I got to go to Wahoo's afterwards. Or every time I meet this really hot chick, I got to go, you know, it just became the same, right? Get a little subliminal message going on? So one of the things we really became really fun for us was the music, because we found out that all the videos, all the premieres and all that, there was always soundtrack to these surf, you know, skate videos and all that. So one of the kids that became a really good friend of ours was this kid named Travis Barker, because he used to be in a little band, you know, and he used to be the guy that collected trash in the city of Laguna when I met him like 15 years ago. And little by little, you know, he started making a name for himself. He got onto the Aquabats, they toured, and then all of a sudden, the drummer from Blink kind of left. He stepped in, the album hits the, you know, the charts, and he becomes a millionaire. Well, today, he owns a couple of our stores out in Norco. You know, he's become a really good partner of ours. Actually, do we have any Mater Dei alumni here? Nobody's from Mater Dei here? Nobody went to Mater Dei? I think I have at least one. Anyway, well, one of the guys that I'm going to go visit this weekend is a Mater Dei USC alumni, Mr. Matt Liner. He, you know, obviously, we have a couple of restaurants, you know, very close to Mater Dei in Costa Mesa. And from the time he was in junior high, he grew up in our business as well. So about 3 years ago, when he started coming to the celebrity events, even though he was only, you know, in college, he couldn't really accept anything. He would always take the free lunch from us. And we're going to go try to cut a deal this weekend with him where he'll be our franchisee in Arizona. So it's become like a really fun. In my lifetime, I never thought I'd be anything more than just a little fish taco guy that served the industry. And because I was, quote unquote, the only sucker willing to do it, I never had any competition. So I was able to create my niche. You know, even though there's lots of people, Baja Fresh, La Salsa, Rubio's, that kind of fit in my category and my space. But when they start looking at what they do in terms of marketing, branding, they don't even come close in terms of what we're able to do, because we had the relationship for almost 20 years now. So they're out there competing on price, on location, on new menu items, all the things that a mature company does, which means there's almost no margins. When you're here, we don't discount, we don't do specials, we don't do anything. So our margins are almost twice as big as anybody in our category. It drives them crazy that we have 1/4 of Rubio's stores, and we probably do about 100 times what they do, because they haven't had a profitable quarter in 4 years. So any dollar that I make is 100% more than they've made. You know, and Baja Fresh recently, if you guys read the news, late last year, they first, a couple of years ago, sold to Wendy's for over almost $270 million, and they got bought back for $30 million. So they got bought back for 10 cents on the dollar. So those are my 2 biggest competitors. One of the other guys right now, I'm looking at what they're doing on claims, and this is really funny. because the whole thing about free-range chicken, you know, they're chickens that, you know, they go out and play, they're not, in, you know, caged in. Then, you know, one of my competitors now claims that they have free-range pork. Now, if you've ever been to a farm, let me tell you, when the pig is this big, he likes to cruise around. About this big, he rolls to his side, there's the trough, he walks, eats, walks back, and goes back to sleep. So I'm like, so I asked my meat packing guy, I go, what qualifies as free-range pork? He goes, a pork that the pig pen's door is open. So I'm wondering how soon before the consumers figure out that it's less than 1% of all the pork in the United States sold qualifies to be that. So this other competitor of mine has over 500 stores, and that's their platform that they advertise, that they use free-range pork. So that to me is like, okay, I'm just waiting for any day now that somebody's going to call them on it, because everybody in my industry does. There's another chain that does, their platform is they use organic produce. Have you ever guys bought tomatoes that are organic? They're like the most expensive thing in the market. So again, their produce is distributed by the same company that distributes ours. And I know for a fact that they're not organic. But what they do is they serve organic beans. But at the very top of the menu, when it lists all the ingredients, it says organic. So the assumption from a consumer is that everything underneath that is organic. Only the beans are. So that's another, you know, so again, I don't talk about my food. It is what it is. It's tacos, rice, and beans. There's really no rocket science to it. But how we do it is by constantly reinventing ourselves with the coolest, latest brand. So every time a 6-year-old discovers us, then we got him. Then I work on the next 6-year-old and the next 6-year-old. So I will hopefully be always relevant to the 30, the 20, and the 10-year-old. And most of my competition, they might have been relevant to a 30-year-old 20 years ago. But they're no longer relevant because now they're talking about Taco Tuesday, 99 cents, 2 for 1, look at my ingredient, look at my sauce. I'm like, every Mexican restaurant has those things. So your challenge is in whatever you do, right? It's not starting it that's the hard part, is the longevity of it. I've been doing this thing for almost 20 years. And if you look at surf companies that are still relevant, the Billabongs, the Quicksilvers, the Oakleys, the O'Neills, they've been able to sustain that. Okay? And for every one of the ones that started, Volcom has made it, but at the same time that Volcom started, there's about 99 other ones that went by the wayside. They were able to reach about $1 million or $1.2 million, maybe $3 million, and then they fizzle. Because they weren't able to manage their finances, they weren't able to sustain that cool factor, reinvent themselves. So there's a lot of things you can learn from the surf industry that maybe coming out of the gate, it's not such a great idea. It's nice to just kind of cruise, you know, it's the turtle and the rabbit. You don't need to go that fast because I'm going to be here for probably another 30, 40 years. So there's no need to come out and say, okay, you know what? I'm having fun. I get to go surfing. I get to go golfing. I get to go snowboarding. I'm really sorry if you guys don't get to do some of the things that I get to do. You know, but the coolest thing that I did over the weekend, did anybody, well, I'm sure you guys have heard, South by Southwest? Okay. So imagine sitting there at the back on the porch of Stubbs Barbecue House where they have all the coolest bands playing, and you're sitting there with the publisher of Spin Magazine, the publisher of Esquire Magazine, and I wish I was like 20 years old again. That's when I wanted to be up here, where you get free drinks, free food, and all that. But I'm 45 years old, and wow, you know what? But look at all these ants down below. See? And that's the difference is where do you want to be when you're 45? Because I'm telling you, there's still a lot of 45-year-olds down there. But I can only imagine when I was 20 to have that kind of access. You know, where you don't have to pay for anything, even though we can't afford to pay for everything. You know, you listen to, and so all the things that we're able to do, it's out of basically tacos, rice, and beans. We've been able to create a wonderful brand. My brothers and I have, and the thing that I really stress to you guys, the social responsibility. We spend half of our marketing budget on an annual basis and have since we started doing social causes. And through all of that, that's how I become friends with almost all the major musicians, all the people, the professional athletes. It's never been about trying to just market our brand. It's being about being a part of the community, making a difference, giving back to the schools, giving back to the charities, and that's what we do. So the whole picture is, gotta have a little fun. Life would be really boring if I couldn't surf every day, you know, but at the same time, give back, you know, make a difference. And I don't know what else I can tell you other than, you know, it's been a really, really fun ride, and I hope that you guys will have, you know, and I can inspire you guys to do the same. So I'll leave it up for some questions because I think you guys may have some.
Yeah, questions?
Yes?
Actually, two questions.
Sure.
How did you initially get the capital to open up your first restaurant? And second, how long did it take for you to turn a profit?
Okay, great question. The initial restaurant, 19 years ago, $30,000 is all we took to open the first restaurant. We took an existing pizza place, sold all the equipment that they had that we didn't need, the ovens and all that, got enough cash to buy some more used equipment, the grills and all that, and I did all the manual labor to kind of save us a lot of money. It probably took us about 6 months to kind of basically break even, and about the 9th month, we were able to pay the $30,000 back. So basically within a year, we were, which is unheard of it in our business. You know, but back then, you know, it wasn't such a big deal. So. Yes, sir.
When you really started, did you envision all this happening to you? Did you plan big, or did it kind of like the way it should take you there?
I just wanted to have a place where I could have my college buddies come and have a beer with me. I mean, that's, you know, so I had no idea that it would ever, but what happened was, as customers that drove from farther away kept saying, there's a great little spot, it would save us a half hour, 10 minutes, whatever, from the coming. So that's how we found Laguna, and so on and so on. So we kind of followed our customers for the new locations.
What's been the most challenging thing about your success so far?
This is, okay, I'll share something with you guys, because how many, I'm sure that everybody here have siblings? Okay. Does anybody here have a family-owned business? Okay. And I'm sure, and maybe in your case, it may be not true. It's hard enough to follow your parents' footsteps. So that's, for us, it was like easier to go into our own restaurant, because you're always going to be known as the SOB if you stay in your family business, the son of the boss. So you have no respect, right? So you got to get out from the shadow. If you can't get out of the shadow, then you got to do something to make your own mark so that you have your own persona, right? So you're not, people don't always know, he got it because he was the son of the boss. Now, having the siblings, I probably struggled a lot. You know, if you guys saw the commercial, the Merrill Lynch piece, it was a $100 million campaign that played in the Super Bowl, Final Four, World Series. It was for a whole year. And it took our little restaurant from 13 stores, 6 years ago, to 47 today. So there's a huge influx of cash and all that. But part of it became that if you saw the pictures, my brothers are relatively more conservative. They, you know, they like to keep their, you know, lives relatively out of the limelight. I figured for marketing, you got to be out. So it created a little bit of friction, because it was artificial, but it was kind of there, because the wives always thought that I needed to be in the limelight. Because it's not that I need to be in the limelight, it's because the way the business, you know, if you don't have something interesting, nobody's going to write about you. So that's probably about the toughest part. We kind of got over it, but he created a little bit of it for a little while there, that, you know, you had to, you know, kind of get over it. And it wasn't, you know, anything that I thought, well, you're kidding, we're all brothers, you know. But, you know, whenever you have a band, there's a lead singer, you know, that kind of syndrome. It's not really pretty, but we got over it, though.
What can you recommend for someone with family members in their business, and, you know, and second, is the company still totally owned by you guys?
Yeah. The three of us are still the main person. What we did is, about 10 years ago, one of our old original managers, he became a partner. So there's 4 of us that each own a quarter of the company, and we each have a vote. So we have a nice democracy going, which kind of, you know, can be fun at times. The thing is, when you can keep what I call the family and the business kind of separate, and it's really, really hard to do, because in a normal environment, you would never call somebody 4-letter words, you get fired, you know. But because we're brothers, we're able to, you know, get our emotions. And I've learned to just kind of, you know, tone it down, like, what's the big deal, you know? But you kind of got to keep your emotions under control a little bit, you know. So that's probably the only part, you know. It's very difficult, though.
As restaurants continue to expand and you continue to franchise, how do you make sure that each restaurant has the same culture as the original restaurant?
One of the things we've been able to do is, because, again, I was never really interested in franchising, but we have them now. But the franchises that we have are people that we've been friends with. So we have a list this long of people that want them. The list that have them is this short. So the Texas, for instance, are 2 kids, Gary and Jordan. I call them kids because I think they're still in their 20s. But they actually worked for us in Denver for about 3 years. When they got enough experience and money, they went to Austin. And I was there. I was hanging out with the mayor of Austin. I mean, everybody, they own that little corner now because they're part of the, you know, they live there. You know, Hawaii was a marketing girl that used to work for the LA Avengers and the Angels. We went there, met her brother, her sister, and boom, you know, they're part of the culture. Does that make sense? So that's how we pick them. Our partners in San Diego, they own Sector 9 skateboards. So they're part of San Diego. You know, Matt is the man in Arizona. So, I mean, that's kind of what we're looking for. We need a little bit of guys that are going to be involved in the community because the restaurant part is fairly easy to do. It's just tacos. It's a silly story, but in fishing, right, like Dorado is also mahi-mahi, right, or dolphin fish. Wahoo is also known as Ono in Hawaii. So when we were looking at names, literally about a month before we opened, a buddy of mine had just got back from Cabo, and he's also Hawaiian, and he said, I'm going to have a Wahoo's Fish Taco party. And I'm like, Wahoo is in the island of Oahu. And he says, no, Wahoo is in Ono. I'm like, you know what? That's what we're going to call it, because you just sound like we're going to go to Wahoo's, you know? And that's how, we told him, we're going to name our restaurant that. He goes, yeah. So sometimes all the research you can think about it doesn't work because we're going to go to Dorados, we're going to go to Mahi Mahis. He just didn't have that, you know, catchy little Wahoo thing. Any other fun questions there? You guys got to have more here.
What's your favorite specific memory of the last 7 years?
I think there's been a lot, but I'll tell you, because there's a lot, to me, it's not about what I've done. Before going to Austin, I was in Chicago for another sponsorship conference, and you guys have all heard of Crocs, the little rubber shoe? I know, we all laugh about them, right? They just reached $1 billion in sales, right? They're huge. And all of my friends that own skateboard companies laugh at them. They're now bigger than all of them. But anyway, so the head marketing guy, they're based in Colorado. So the head marketing guy was presenting because they're going to be doing a college campus tour this fall with music. Not the, you know, the brightest idea, whatever, but it's, you know, it'll be fun. So they were partnering up with some people. At the end of his presentation, in a room with about this size, he's talking about all the branding and all the things that they've done. He points out to me in the audience, he goes, I was here 2 years ago, and that gentleman there inspired me to do what I'm doing now. And I'm like, okay, you know. So that's kind of like, those moments are the things that I kind of, you know. So when I see a kid, I mean, you'd be amazed. Like, everybody, after the Flying Tomato won his gold medal, everybody wants a piece of this kid, Shaun White. I've been with Shaun White since he was 6 years old. I've seen him compete every winter until he became a pro. I don't think I've missed one of his events, ever. And I never saw him lose. So when everybody's trying to get into this guy, I can just call, hey, Shaun, we're going to do this thing. Can you come by? Does that make sense? So it's not about me. It's about the people that I've been able to inspire, touch, help their careers, you know, like Travis Barker. All these people, they're just fun, you know. So when my friends goes, God, you know, how do you know Carson Palmer? I goes, I play golf with Carson Palmer. You know, so does that make sense? So I have a lot of those moments, and I just remember the ones that just happened recently because that's just, you know.
I'm just curious, you're telling us about your first 20 years, but what's your vision for 20 years down the road?
One of the things that we're negotiating right now is we may miss the boat if we don't start literally growing faster than we, because what happens is your employees want opportunities. So we've been very, you know, conservative to a huge degree. So we've been negotiating with a couple of guys from McDonald's. They have retired, and they have a huge network of contacts. Because in the franchise world, what you really need is the Rolodex of people that have multi-unit operation experience. So in talking to these guys, originally they wanted to buy us. I'm like, you know what, I'm 45, but I'm not that old. So, you know, I want to do something. I don't want to be fired from my job tomorrow. And I like, you know, being Mr. Wahoo for now, you know. So we came up with an idea is, what if we give them the franchise arm of our company and we can keep our corporate stores? So that's kind of what's in there. So we don't really need, 27 stores that we own is plenty of work for us. You know, if we grow 1 or 2 stores a year going forward, it's plenty. But it allows our employees to have kind of gotten experience that we can say, here's a Matt Liner that's going to open 5 stores next year. You can become a manager out there and maybe share in that growth. So that's what we're trying to do, is create opportunities for the people that already gotten the experience, like the guys in Austin, you know. So we want to have more guys that are actually more owners and sharing the equity of our upside. But for us, it's like, you know what? Just going to the other side of the freeway, the 405 for me is already like, oh my God, it's just too far from the beach, you know? So, yes?
What other companies in your industry like to inspire you?
In my industry, love In-N-Out Burger. They absolutely rock. It's the funniest company under the sun because the guy who runs it is married to one of my close friends' daughter, which is really funny. His name is Mark. I don't know his other last name now because he's a stepbrother of another guy that I know, which is, his last name is Riley, so it's all confusing for me. But he's basically married to Lindsay, who's the heir to the whole Empire's stepsister. So, you know, it's kind of funny to sit there and talk shop with him. Their legal counsel is another good friend of ours. And when we compare notes, you know, they just do it so right. And it's all about the integrity of the product and the customer service. I mean, they do it better than anybody I know. But that's the only company that I see out there that I really like.
Obviously, your son has grown up in this business. Where do you see your son fitting into your business?
Well, just like I didn't want to be in the shadows of my father, he's basically in more ways than not said the same thing to me. So he's studying design, architectural design at UC San Diego. So, you know, he might do something related to the food or anything related, you know, but the design of it. I'm not sure that he actually wants to operate one, because as funny as it is he doesn't like cutting like raw meat. So I don't think you're going to be able to be in my business if you can't cut steak, fish, pork, chicken, you know. So he can cook, but he can't cut stuff, which is really weird. He doesn't like blood, you know. Yeah. Is the other bit?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What's your biggest regret or biggest failure, biggest mistake? What did you screw up?
My screw up is I've picked great partners in business. I still have original employees from 19 years ago. I have their kids. I mean, it's crazy. I've been really good at that. I've been very bad at picking life partners. I've been married twice. So and I don't know what the formula is. I know in business what it is. You find somebody to fill that need. But as a life partner, I'm not really sure what that is yet. So, and we had this discussion. You know, has anybody seen The Freedom Riders? The movie? Okay. It happens to be about the life of a girl that I dated for 18 months. So I thought I was really, really busy until I met her. And I thought, great, this is somebody who's really busy and will understand each other. Well, I haven't seen her in a month. So I'm not really sure that I'll be dating her when she comes back, but she's an amazing person. Okay? But, you know, and half the time I have no idea what time zone she's even in. You know, so it's crazy, you know, but, you know, I don't know what to tell you guys. It's, you know, business is one thing. So that's, you know, you always say friendships and business, you know. It is. It's very difficult. So that's my biggest regret.
I will end it with that. How many of you feel excited and inspired? I guess I think you did a good job. Okay. All right. You guys can all leave now. Thank you.
Stay out there for a few minutes if somebody wants to talk.
Okay.